Okay, it's 10 o'clock and good morning, everyone. I am Luli Castro, Swiftland's Executive Director, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Music Technology, Cheap, Quiet, and Fun. And today's presenters, Full Steam Ahead. Hillary Shore is an 8-year veteran of public music education in grades K through 5. She specializes in music curriculum development and instruction and is a statewide leader in music education. She is currently the director of the Fran Cohen Youth Center. We also have Ryan, who is a 10-year education veteran and has taught STEAM at every level from 4th to 12th grades. He is a 2014 Golden Apple recipient for Collier County. In 2015, Ryan and his wife, Hillary, started Full Steam Ahead to provide guidance and opportunity for students to discover and excel at their passions. Welcome, please, Hillary and Ryan, and enjoy the webinar. Hillary?
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Our webinar is Music Technology, Cheap, Quiet, and Fun. And we are so excited to give you some ideas for how to integrate music technology into your library setting. Here with me, I have my husband, Ryan.
Hi, everybody. I'll be the Robin to her Batman today. If anybody knows us, and we'll go through our backgrounds in a minute. Hillary is far and away our music expert. I'm the STEAM guy, but my expertise is quite limited when it comes to music. So Hillary will be running the show
Hey,
today.
I've got you trained up pretty well. I think you're getting good.
I would say that I'm better than average now, thanks to you.
All righty, so everyone, let's get started here. So the goals for our workshop are to discover free and paid resources and to deepen your knowledge of music education. So I'm going to be giving you some background of what resources we use here at Full Steam Ahead, how they're useful, but also try to make it not intimidating. I've heard from a lot of people how they are worried to start integrating music into their programs just because they don't feel like they are experienced enough or know enough to do it. And sure, but what I'm here to tell you is that there is a lot that you can do with music to really get it to the children, even if you're not an expert, and even if you need your setting to be quiet, because we have ways to make that happen for you.
And one of the reasons we named the webinar Cheap, Quiet, and Fun is because that's kind of the opposite of the stigma of music. It's generally thought of something that's very expensive, very noisy, and somewhat rigid. It has that stigma. And we're removing all of those barriers to bring it to everybody here. I see that the first letter is cut off in our PowerPoint there.
I'm not really sure why that is.
I imagine you are seeing the same thing, but we'll do a little word unscrambles today. You guys will have a word activity if that continues.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it's like that. Okay, so understand how to teach music without all of the noise. The biggest piece to that, dun dun dun, headphones.
And we're going to go into the specifics. We'll circle back around. I'll help talk through how to set up your library, your makerspace for music. Headphones, it seems like a pretty simple thing, but we've learned a lot about headphones over the years, and we can fill you in on what types of headphones and what types of cheap tools will make your life a lot easier as you're going through some of these lessons and activities. So headphones can be a godsend in this, and we'll speak to that in just a little bit.
Yes. So which headphones are the most durable? We can tell you some of that. One of the things that I want to share with you also, over here on the right, you'll see that the splitters that we have. The splitters have been fantastic for me as a music educator because I want to be able to hear what the children are playing. So with that little splitter, I take it, I have my headphones plugged into one of them, and then I go over to their keyboard, I unplug their headphone from the keyboard, plug in my splitter, and then plug their cord into the other part of the splitter, and then I can hear everything, and we're both on the same page. So a little bit more on that later. And we have our headphones here with us too, so we'll be able to tell you which of the headphones are the most durable and which we like the most.
So getting back to who we are before we dive any deeper now, a lot of times we see familiar names in these webinars, and we see a lot of new names here as well.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic to see. We're always happy to share what we do with as many people as possible. As Luli introduced us, we started Full Steam Ahead in 2015, and we are an extracurricular enrichment program focused on the arts and sciences. There's really not a lot like us in town here. We're kind of uniquely qualified to speak, especially about music technology, and how we all fit in with that. We've had a lot of success over the last 4 years bringing these programs to. We've had over 1,000 students come through our doors in the last 4 years, and many happy reviews.
And one of the things that makes us unique is the music component. There are a lot of programs out there that do STEAM and STEM, and they tie a little bit of coloring or painting into it, and they call it STEAM, and they say that's great. But music is something that you don't often see integrated well into programs, and that is one of our specialties. So I will introduce my husband, Ryan Shore. Oh, those are our two little boys right there. Oh, they're so much bigger than that now. They're 2 and 4 now. Oh, so my husband, Ryan, he is the co-founder and STEM guru here at Full Steam Ahead. He taught in public education for 7 years, math and science. So he brings the technology tie-in to what we do. We teach science through the arts and the arts through science. So it's very much a partnership. He specializes in the STEAM curriculum and program design. He won the Golden Apple. And what he does is he shows the kids that you can really dive into problems and educational, like new content that you're trying to learn, and you don't have to be scared. You just try it. You figure it out all together. And that fearless problem solving is one of our core principles, and something within music, within STEM alike, that is really important as you're getting into the STEAM content.
And as I introduce my wife, Hillary, here, you'll see why she is the Batman in this project today. She's the co-founder and the music guru here at Full Steam Ahead. She did K-5 music for 8 years in Collier, and then she actually helped write the county music curriculum, the state music assessment. She's been, she's attended many years worth of state leadership conferences for music, and kind of the who's who of music education here in the state of Florida. So that's why she'll be representing the why today. So as we go through this, she'll be explaining how these, why these things work, how this helps the brain, the science, the background, the importance of this. I'm going to be more the how guy. So I'll represent the how to do this. Hillary will represent the why to do this.
Okay, so let's get into it. What is STEAM? So science, technology, engineering, arts, and math is the traditional piece. Oh, the first letter is cut off again. But in our program, we say music because we have such a strong representation there. So, for us, STEAM combines multiple disciplines, and it's very much a mindset more than simply combining content areas. We specialize in having the children develop their creativity, their problem-solving skills, critical thinking, and perseverance.
So, and one of the reasons we do this, and actually the main reason we do this, and the main reason you all are on our team in this, is STEAM opportunities give kids a chance to try out new things, pursue alternative passions, experiment and explore without a fear of failure, all while teaching them some of life's most valuable skills. Hillary alluded to some of those most valuable skills, and we'll be talking about those throughout the presentation. Idea generation, In other words, creativity, fearless problem solving, perseverance, to name just some of the few skills that we really, really value.
So a little bit about the brain. One of the many reasons why I am so invested in music education is because it really truly involves the whole brain. There is a really fantastic TED Talk on how practicing music is a full body workout for the brain. It strengthens the connections from one point to the next. And, science has shown that musicians' brains really do work differently. And they process things at a different rate, in a different pattern. And everything from the social piece and the emotional piece. And we're actually going to be talking a lot about the emotional piece of music and how it relates to what you can teach. So, it's just the left brain has its very specific functions as the right does. And, everyone always knows that the left brain is the one who can.
Sound is okay now. Sorry, we were having some sound issues. Are we okay now? We back?
Yeah, I hope. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay, great. Let me know if anything happens. So the left brain generally controls, language and math and logic, speech, all of that, those types of things. The right brain, though, is the spatial ability and the imagery and the art and music and emotion. But within music education, music and rhythm is math. And I'm going to be showing you how music and note durations, it all relates back to fractions. So, there's one area where it pulls into the other side of the brain. When you're singing, you are working on your speech and your fluency when you're reading the lyrics. So music just ties it all together in a way that I find fascinating and just so beneficial to the kids.
There's a lot of very natural connections between music and STEM.
Mm-hmm.
So why us? And when I say us, I don't mean Hillary and myself. I mean us, as in all of us in this room. Why is it important for us to be focusing on this kind of thing? And this is essentially it, right? I mean, you've all heard about how state curricula are becoming increasingly narrow and focusing on the few core skills deemed to be most important. And as that happens, opportunities for kids to experiment and play and learn through discovery are becoming increasingly rare. We are the educators in these non-traditional learning environments. We are the ones who are uniquely suited to provide these vital opportunities. So we have to be, nobody else is doing this for kids.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be the ones that through weekend workshops, special programs, makerspaces, classes, we can help kids learn even more. And what I would argue is even deeper. So here's kind of the most important thing we want you all to take away from STEAM in general, and particularly music today. And we do have a question for everybody as well that'll kind of guide how we go through the rest of this. But you don't need to be an expert in a topic to create amazing learning opportunities for kids. We preach this every webinar, every workshop, everyone we ever talk to. This is one of the reasons that we've been able to excel, is because we're not afraid of not being an expert in something.
Even though we are.
That's true. Well, but we try new things all the time that we are not experts in. If you wait till you're an expert, you'll be waiting forever. So what I want to do is just kind of poll the room and see where everybody's at.
There's a couple ways that you can do it. If you want to be super cool and tech savvy, you can go to the draw tool up on top. There we go.
Oh, that's not a very good line.
All right. Not an expert in art, are you?
No.
So if you can go to your draw tool, and you're going to.
We may not have that enabled. Let's see.
Oh, we're going to enable it for you. You're going to draw on our line where you are with music specifically. So if you have little to no experience and you're like, what's music? You're going to be way on the left side. And if you can do some stuff, you play some instruments, Maybe you're virtuoso, you're all the way. If you're kind of in the middle, if the draw tool isn't working for you, you can also just type it in the chat box.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Look at that.
Woohoo!
And so, yeah, over on the left is music. Music makes me have question marks. Over on the right, music makes me have exclamation marks. Oh, we have somebody beyond the exclamation mark. Excellent.
Who are you? I need to talk to you.
I'm going to go ahead and put a little R where I am, just so you can all see. And then Hillary will put an R where, or not an R, because she's Hillary.
It'd be weird if I put an R.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go here. There's always people better. Okay.
So, okay, this is good. So
I like the green person.
Yeah, but we like to stand out. So this is good. This helps us a lot. We know that we'll be speaking to a few people who have a lot of comfort and passion with music, and we'll have certainly something for everyone here. We'll be speaking to a lot of people who are, not feeling so confident or comfortable. We designed this webinar with that in mind, knowing that not everybody's going to be an expert, but some people will be.
Yep.
So
a lot of the lessons that we're going to show you today.
Bye-bye, draw.
You can, there's ways that based on your experience that you can scale it down or you can scale it way up. So, all right, I think
And for those of you hanging out in that question mark range, today, after this, you should have some things that you can take back and try today. Don't feel like you have to be an expert. Put an hour in playing with it, exploring with it, and play alongside with the kids. Create opportunities for them.
So this is, I think, to a lot of our children, and maybe some teachers and staff too. This might be the top one, is how music might look to you if you're not very familiar with it. A little overwhelming, I would say. But after you've practiced, it becomes more simple. And there are strategies and ways to accomplish that is very much within our reach as educators, even if you don't have a music background.
Okay, so before we get into our different technologies and tools for the day, I want to just talk for a second about setup. So when you set up your makerspace or your library, in order to take advantage of a lot of these, since this is music technology, you're going to need some technology. We know that Swiftland has wonderful technologies that you can rent or loan rather, take on loan from them. They've got iPads, I believe they have laptops, and Luli can speak to what's available. But if you're planning a program that needs any of those things and you don't have them, please reach out to them. That's why those things exist. So just in general, things that you're going to need in order to use these. Chrome Music Lab is web-based. So here, let me point these out as we go. Chrome Music Lab is web-based. So you're going to need a computer or a laptop. GarageBand, GarageBand is iPad or
awesome. Thank you, Luli. The website is right there in the chat box for things that you guys can borrow.
Excellent.
Thank you, Luli.
Our GarageBand is iPad based, or it's Mac based. You can use iMac and Macintosh computers, Apple computers for that as well. Compose Yourself is web based as well, and it comes with physical cards. Soundtrap is actually all of those. So in terms of what setup you'll need, it's going to be kind of specific to what you're planning on using. But in general, a set of laptops, one for each student is great. If you can share laptops, it doesn't have to be laptops, rather, computers are fine too. One per student is great. If you have one or two or three students sharing one, that works as well. Same thing with iPads, having iPads available, or what works best, or I'm sorry, GarageBand works best with iPads, but there are other apps you can use like Soundtrap if you don't have iPads. If you have other devices, that's fine too.
And then remember the power of the splitter for the headphones too. You can plug one splitter into an iPad and two headphones into it, and then kids are working cooperatively on a piece of music they're composing.
So, and to kick it back to the headphones here, there was some questions about that. I'm actually going to go way back here and check out those headphones because we did have some questions I wanted to address. There's two major types of headphones, right? You have the in-ear headphones and you have the on-ear headphones. Now, we prefer the on-ear headphones, but you may want the in-ear headphones. Simple earbud headphones are actually going to work really well for this. It seems a little gross, and it is a little gross. There is some cleaning involved, but by and large, the in-ear headphones are much sturdier. They don't break as easily. The sound is just fine, and there are persistent issues, which you may want to worry about with the on-ear headphones, with lice. There's the schools every year. Yep, it's kind of gross. The schools every year, they have lice problems. You know, I've never been in a school that doesn't. There's never been a year that goes by, and no matter what headphones you're using, make sure, clean them. If you're asking, the ones that we use are called, we ordered them on Amazon. They're called Vogek, Vogek maybe. I'll type it in the chat, Vogek. We got them on Amazon. They were, I think, about $12 each. They were not super expensive, and they've held up really well. They have good sound. They look nice, which is, that's important to us, not important to everybody.
Important to the kids. The one thing that I want to mention with the earbud headphones, the ones that are in the picture right here that kind of hook around the ear, are going to be a little bit better. If you get just the simple earbuds, though, be aware of the age of kids that you're having use them, because the little kids, I would say second grade and under, they have a tough time. Their ears are too small, so they have a tough time getting the earbud in properly, and it just keeps falling out, and they get very frustrated by it. So, just be aware of that piece. And also with the splitters, they do sell 5 and 6 jack splitters. So, that's a great, I've used that a lot with kids when they're working with a big project. So, all right, we're going to skip back ahead here. All right, so Chrome Music Lab. So if you type into Google Chrome Music Lab, this will pop up, and this is a fantastic website with 12 different kind of apps where you can experiment with music and play with it and create music in a way that each of those teaches something very specific about music. And I can give you a little overview of what all of them are here. Let me pull up my draw tool. And let's see, where are we? There's my arrow. Okay, so this guy right here, he's a little guy who creates a rhythm. And what I love about it is it shows little dots as the steady beat, and he drums, and then you can add a couple different parts and a couple different instruments. This one here shows you the sound waves of your voice and the various colors that it presents. This one here is for chords. We're going to get into this a little bit more. Kandinsky is one of the lessons we're going to present to you. This is a guy who was able to see music in colors, and he does paintings based on the music that he hears. So more on that. We got a chord wheel here. This is excellent. This one is about sound waves. Shows you how different sound moves for different pitches. So I relate this to science a lot. This guy is the melody line. This one is one of those as well. We're going to show you a lesson on this. This lets your voice go backwards and forwards, spins it around and distorts it. This is another sound wave activity. And then these two here have to do with the vibration of different sounds and pitches, and where the different nodes happen within a sound wave to produce the various pitches and frequencies. So, you can see here that it really depends on what you're trying to teach and what your comfort level is. This is a great website where kids can either, you can just say, hey, go explore, play with it, find one and share with me what you've got, or you can really go into depth with them based on what you know of music. And it's a fantastic resource that the kids love, and I do as well as a teacher. One thing about this, they don't save. So, hold on, sorry. I tried to undo the draw button.
Nope, we lost our screen there.
Sorry. There we go.
I think we're coming back here.
We're coming back. Sorry about that, guys.
Apologies. I think this is it.
I tried to turn the draw tool off and I accidentally hit
Hey, we're back.
Stop sharing. Sorry. Okay, so moving on. Song maker. So in order to make a song, you add notes by just clicking in the little grid, and then it plays the pitch for you. Now, down at the bottom where you see the little triangles and the circles, that shows you the downbeats and the upbeats and other percussion instruments that you can add in there. So it goes like this. So the x-axis, where you have the melody that goes along this way. This is one beat right here. This is the downbeat in the first column and the upbeat in the second column. So if you had a sound like right here in two different columns within the one main one, this would be 2 eighth notes, T, T. If you just had one here, that'd be a ta, and it takes up the whole beat. So again, you can see right away, you get into music theory, and based on your understanding and your knowledge of it, you can either let them just kind of create and click around and play, or you can actually talk about pitch and rhythm and get into it a little bit more. So you can use your computer keys. You can press the arrow keys to move, enter, backspace to add and play. You can play with the tempo here, and you can also play with the instrumentation for what you want it to sound like.
So one thing to note with Chrome Music Lab as we're going through these is that it's largely a touch and go program. You can't actually save your progress, or you can't easily save your progress in Chrome Music Lab. It's not something for long-term projects. We have other solutions for that, other great music technology software for that. But this is a really high interest, easy to use, really low learning curve, instant gratification type of program. Kids have a lot of fun in here, just going through and experimenting. They even call each of these activities experiments. And why not experiment with music? We experiment with art, we experiment with science, we experiment with technology. Why not experiment with music in a quiet and fun and safe way?
So just here's a little bit about basic melody and basic harmony. And with the song maker, you can see it very clearly. So, it goes, the y-axis here is the melody, but harmony is where you create that texture and you layer them on top. So, right here you see the melody in SoundMaker as well as notated, and then here you see what a harmony looks like on staff, and then here it is right there and there within SoundMaker, or SongMaker, sorry.
And I see our missing letters flying over there. I'm not sure why they're flying off. They certainly weren't doing that in our original PowerPoint, but I guess there was something got lost in translation.
Technology, How are we doing out there, by the way? Are we all there? And okay. Okay, so Kandinsky. Now this guy is very close to my heart because he's got something that I have also. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
It is officially listed in the DSM-5. I always like to point that out. So when I call my wife crazy, it's actually true.
So this guy has something called synesthesia. Anyone out there have synesthesia too? So Kandinsky, I'll explain in a second.
I don't even know.
Right. This is the truth. So Kandinsky was an artist who he was able to he compared painting to music. So, and Chrome Music Lab has an extension based on his art. So he would paint the things that he heard. Now, he saw synesthesia. What it is basically, the way I explain it is the sensory wires in your brain are crossed. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. You can hear smells. You can taste sound or color. You can see smells and see music. There's all sorts of variations on it. Me personally, I see letters and numbers in color. and also days of the week, different pitches, months, all things like this. I thought this was totally normal as I was growing up. I thought everyone had it. And then I realized when I was in college, taking a psychology class and reading an article about synesthesia, and I'm like, wait, what? That's not what everybody has. And Ryan likes to make fun of me and tell me I have a disorder. But so, but I as a musician, I love it. I think it's fantastic personally. And Kandinsky turned it into art. And what he would do is he would show how music is emotion, and he would paint what he heard and paint what he felt, and relate it very much to the art and the whole process. There is a book called The Noisy Paint Box that I would definitely recommend. There's also a book I saw just the other day in Barnes and Noble that could tie very much into this lesson and the library setting.
Yeah, the Noisy Paint Box is a lesson or a workshop, just kind of as needed with, or just in a package with this particular software, with this particular Chrome Music Lab experiment. It's about Kandinsky actually, and how he was brought up very traditionally, and he had to kind of break out, and he saw music in color, and it's about how he first discovered this and then goes outside of his comfort zone and takes a risk and starts painting music. So it's a very neat book. It's a children's book, so it's perfect for these types of programs for children.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Barb Rosenstock, by the way.
So that's just a brief rundown on Chrome Music Lab. The book is called Noisy Paint Box. But to be very honest with you, if you look up books on Kandinsky, there's a bunch of them.
There are. He's a popular artist.
There are a bunch, and it's fascinating. And we at Full Steam Ahead with our connection to science. I love the tie into science and the brain, and I think the kids are fascinated by it. So it's definitely worth getting into more.
I'll put in noisy.
I'm going to type it into the chat window.
Barb Rosenstock.
Barb Rosenstock. So anyway, so that is Chrome Music Lab, and if feel free to email us if you have any other questions on some different lessons and want any support on that. We're here to help.
So moving on. So like we said, Google Chrome Music Lab Chrome Music Lab is kind of a touch and go program. It's not something that you're going to do a lot of long-term projects with. We're going to start getting into things where you can start to build a little bit more and go a little bit deeper to create more compositions. So GarageBand is the next thing we're going to take a look at.
So GarageBand kind of ties into the instant gratification piece that all of our children want that day. You guys, I'm sure that you see that in your experience with kids. They like to get into, they want to play music, but they don't necessarily want to do all the work behind it. So one of the things I like about GarageBand is you can play full chords by just pressing on the letter. So it'll say F, G, C, and when you click on that simple letter, it plays a C chord or an F chord. So you can take it into, you can talk about chord progressions and give them a couple examples and let them play in a way that it sounds good to them and it sounds like they're really making music, even if their fingers and their piano technique or guitar technique aren't fully developed yet to actually play the chord.
So one of the things Hillary mentioned about the instant gratification, we absolutely live in a culture of instant gratification, and in general, we don't like to encourage that. But with music, I feel like we lose a lot of kids in music after they get through the beginner stage, and the instant gratification is gone, and they really, really, really have to work. So this is a way to keep kids interested in music while they work through that. Mm-hmm. It's an important skill to have, certainly to be able to work through the boredom and the frustration and the repetition. That's something we teach through Perseverance all the time. But we also don't want kids to lose their love of music. And so this is a great way that gives them that instant gratification to feel like they were able to create something worthwhile quickly.
Yeah, you want to keep them engaged, engaged enough that you can still teach them what you want to teach them while they're having fun. Now, and this is when we were talking about the chords, and this is what the GarageBand interface looks like. You can pick the different instruments. You can pick the different types of tracks that you want to lay down. Yes, a GarageBand can be used on desktop, but it has to be on a Mac.
So, yeah, not a Windows
PC.
computer. So
yeah, but I got you covered, because next, after we talk about GarageBand, I'm going to show you Soundtrap, which is something that you can use on a regular PC.
Which we like even more, I think.
Yeah. yeah, I think so. But GarageBand, I like that the kids can go in and just immediately start jamming. Go ahead, Brian.
One question that everyone will have right away is, how much does GarageBand cost? It is free to start using, but it's one of those freemium apps. So you do have to pay $5 for different instrument packs. So, let's say you want a new set of guitars, you could pay $5 for that. So there's in-app purchases, but you can get a lot done with just the free version of it. You're not that limited. The people who are going to be paying the $5, $10, $20 for the additional instruments, they have really specific purposes for doing so.
Okay, so now Ryan's going to share with you something that he does, but first, the groundwork that I want to lay for that is within chords. We talked about how in GarageBand you can just press the button and then the chord plays. That's fabulous. What we want to get to is that they are actually playing the chord. And if you don't have a piano, no big deal, because on the app on the iPad you can pull up a piano, the piano instrument, and then you can just press the buttons there. So just real quick about chords. You've got a lot of different types of chords, and it gets very complicated very fast, but major chord and a minor chord. It's all about the half steps and whole steps in between each, about the distance between in the intervals. So to play a major chord, your bottom two notes, a major triad, is a major third. So C, D, E. And then, but the top two, between the E and the G in the picture, it's a minor third. And that is the amount of half steps. So again, I know it gets complicated real quick, and I'm not going to go too far into it.
And for those of you hovering with the question marks with me, don't worry, this will all make sense in a second.
So from the C to an E, right? The distance between this note to this note is a half step. The distance between the C to the D is a whole step. With a whole step, there's one note in between. So from a D to an E, it's a whole step, because you got this guy in between here. So a major third is 2 whole steps. However, a minor third is a step and a half. Now, trick question from here to here. You guys can write it in the chat box if you want. Sorry.
Trying to sabotage
Teaching
us.
habits die hard. So what is the distance? Is it a half step or a whole step between the E to the F? Are you the one who's really good at music?
Zach's been waiting this whole time.
Yes, I know. You're right. It is a half step, because there's no note in between. From here to here, it looks like it would be like 2 steps or something. It's not. From here to here, it's a whole step, because that guy's in between. So the reason I mention this is to set up a major triad. Yeah, I know, I got to go faster. You've got a major third on the bottom and a minor third on top. Major chords sound happy. The whole thing with GarageBand, and the point of where I'm going with this, is minor thirds sound sad, and to get to a minor chord, you would just flip-flop it. A minor third on the bottom and a major third on top. So right here, the blue, that's a major chord. Lower that to right there, it's a minor chord. Minor sounds sad and kind of scary. Major sounds happy. We we do this with the kids and get them to understand it, and then we take it into something that they can understand and digest.
And exactly. So for the how to do this now, so if you don't understand the difference between the half step and the whole step and the minor and the major, that's okay.
It's okay.
And that's okay. So
you're not alone, Pat.
It's my turn to dumb it down because that's where I'm at. But so the point being, different chords, whether it's a minor or a major chord, they make us feel different things.
Yep.
The way we relate this to students is we use movies. We look at a specific scene in a movie. We like to use Disney movies because we don't have to worry about inappropriate themes and things like that. Although they're kind of hidden in there sometimes. Anyway, so we like to use movies, and what we do is we have the students listen to or watch a scene in a movie that's dramatic, like in Moana or in Star Wars, that's dramatic, and we have them listen to the music. Oftentimes they don't know. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Oftentimes they don't know that music's even playing. It's just kind of a natural thing for them. But our brains are hardwired, pre-wired to feel a certain thing with a certain chord. And then we have them go into GarageBand and create their own chord. Listen to the chords and have them create a simple movie score for that scene. So something that sounds sad, something that sounds scary, something that sounds happy, something that sounds exciting. It's surprisingly easy to do once you've played around with the chords. Once you know that a major chord sounds happy and a minor chord sounds sad. Did I say that right? Once you know that, it's surprisingly easy to play something in GarageBand that sounds happy or sad.
And the reason we mentioned GarageBand and why I typed that right in there, in GarageBand, if you just see a simple C, you can assume that that means C major. It's going to sound happy. If you see a lowercase m, I wrote there C lowercase m means C minor, that's going to sound sad. So when you're teaching your kids and you're having them just poke at the chord names, tell them that if you see a little m next to it, it's going to have this more sad personality.
So hopefully that clears it up, and why we are going down that music theory. We're going down that music theory rabbit hole, because it is, you don't have to necessarily. We like to explain why, or Hillary likes to explain why. She's very good at it. But if you don't understand why that is the way it is, that's okay. But it's surprisingly easy to create music in GarageBand that elicits certain emotions. One way you could certainly use that is by, as you're reading through a read aloud, the setting, the stage that's set in the book. Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it scary? Let's take a second and let's go into GarageBand and compose a score, a movie score, or a score for that scene. And
for that, you really don't need to understand anything other than if you see an M next to it, a lowercase m, play it, and it's going to match with what you say.
So, and also to Pat and Gretchen, who are saying you're not a music teacher, yeah, I totally hear you.
Me neither.
Don't be put off by not understanding all the little nitty-gritty of what I was just saying. It's really okay. So Soundtrap lets you get into a little more of the, like, you still have the instant gratification piece, but you can actually write a song, you can get into it. You can do that in GarageBand too, but what Soundtrap has that I like the most, yes, Mary, that's a really good point. Yes, doing the same thing with a book and a story.
Absolutely,
that's a wonderful idea.
So with Soundtrap, it has this kind of a chat invite. You can invite someone who has an account in Soundtrap into view and listen to your piece. And so what I would do is, we created one account, and then we created student accounts under that for Soundtrap, where I was able to, I had all of the kids initially, once they started their new piece, they shared the invitation with me so that I had access to their piece. So then I could sit at the laptop with headphones in. All of the kids would be sitting around the table with laptop and headphones, creating their piece. And then I just bop into each one of their compositions and I listen, and then they're in the chat window, we can talk about it. And, this is the world that our kids live in. They loved doing that. They were sharing their piece with each other right at the table. And, it looked like we're all just sitting there on our laptops, but everyone was communicating and creating and sharing, and it was really cool.
In short, it combines the functionality of GarageBand with a social media-like platform. And you know how our kids respond to social media, so it was great for them. It is free to use, which is really nice too. We do pay for the pro version, or actually I think the premium version. We'll go over the pricing in just a second, but for us it's well worth it to pay for it. It's it's about $7 a month or $8 a month is what we pay, but that gives us unlimited or virtually unlimited compositions and a lot of wonderful tools.
So writing a song in Soundtrap. Now I could go on about this for a really long time. Don't worry, I won't too much. but so in short, you're going to layer your compositional process. The first thing that I do with kids writing a song is we listen to some pop songs. I always have to say, review all of the lyrics to something before you play a song. The amount of stuff that's not appropriate for kids, I know I don't need to go on about it, but it's crazy. So I always kind of have a list of songs that are okay for me to go to ahead of time. And then you listen to it and you count the measures. You just kind of have the kids keep a steady beat. And then as it goes, you count how many measures are in the intro, how many measures are in the verse. And, a measure is just like 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4. Each set of 4, for example, there's other things it could be, but is one measure or one bar. So you count how many measures are in the different sections of the piece, and then that becomes your roadmap for the kids creating their own song. Usually, you have an intro, and then you go verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. It varies a lot. But after you sit down with the kids and you listen to a song and then you compare how many measures and the layout of each song, you start to see some trends and it becomes pretty similar within each. So then they decide the roadmap that they want.
What Hillary's trying to say in a very nice way is that pop songs are pretty much all the same. And it's not that hard to create one by following the same pattern that they follow.
Mm-hmm. So, then after we talk about that, and we talk about the overall form of a song, then we get into the drums and the percussion. And that is where I get my math tie-in. Then we do this whole thing. We go into the steady beat and we relate it to fractions. And in some of our past webinars, when we get into a little bit more of the music theory about everything, I show you all the different ways that we can break that down. But, so in short, you lay out your drums and your percussion, and then you can add in a melody. They could sing. They can add in other instruments. Then they bring their melody back, and then it's the end. So with this, you could just let the kids go listen to some of the loops that are already in there, and they can just drag and drop them into their song and have a good time within it. You don't need a whole lot of formal music education to make it happen.
Well, you don't need any formal music.
You don't need any. Yeah, no, it's sorry. And it can still be a really effective lesson. So that's where knowing as a teacher, your level of comfort and expertise, that's where it really comes into it to decide how far into it you want to go.
And with any of these tools, I highly, highly, highly recommend even really as soon as this is done, try one out, pick one, try it out and play. Exactly. We try to emphasize to our staff and people that teach with us, play for an hour a day. And you'll learn so much. Not only will you have fun with this kind of stuff, but you'll learn so much, and you'll get comfortable enough to bring at least your knowledge of it to kids. An hour or two with one of these pieces of software would easily get you there.
It really will. You just give it a try. Don't be intimidated. So compose yourself. If you go to, don't do it now, but it's Think Fun is the website, and I think it's on the next slide. I think it's that word. We'll see. It's on the next one. So if you go to Compose Yourself, you'll see that there's a website to go along with it. There are all those little clear plastic cards. They all have numbers on them, and you can flip them upside down, backwards, forwards. And the way it's designed, they're all functional regardless of how you lay them out. So you set them out on a little table, and then you type the numbers that are in the corners. You type them in online. And then what happens, and this is the magic of the whole thing, there it is, compose yourself at thinkfun.com. This is the magic of it. They, the creators of this program have pre-recorded every little card, backwards, forwards, upside down, inside out, by a world-renowned orchestra. And you can see the video of the creation of this whole thing. But you've got famous musicians from around the world who've done all of this. So then when you put the card numbers in online and then you hit play, you'll hear your composition played by an orchestra. And the kids love it, and it is beautiful. And then it gives them the chance to go back and listen to their composition and change it, adjust it, flip one upside down and look to see how that changes what you're going for. So it really starts to introduce them to the musical compositional process. Again, you don't need to know anything as an educator to make this happen, but then you can start naming, if you want to, you can name the names of the line notes and the space notes, and then they see the first note in that first card is an A because it's the second space note up, which is an A. So, again, you can layer this according to your ability level. And it's an immediate way for the kids to get in and hear something they created. All right.
So what we want to finish with here is a few different specific ideas, music technology related. One of them is not super technology related, but again, just an idea to bring more music into your space.
We'll call it music. Harmonica.
We'll call it music.
You'll see what I mean.
At the end of this, we want to emphasize what we emphasized in the beginning, which is you don't have to be a music teacher. You don't have to be super comfortable with all the things, all the technical aspects of this to start having fun with it and to start, more importantly, letting the kids have fun with it. We think of ourselves not as teachers, but facilitators. We're here to provide the opportunities for the kids. We're here to, give them the space, give them the materials, and give them the creative freedom to start exploring and discovering these things on their own. So with that in mind, here's a couple of simple activities that you can do, and we'll kind of give you the science tie-in as well with these. But they're great ways to bring in technology, to bring in music without a whole lot of hassle.
And what I like about this first one is not as much the sound that it creates. It's beautiful sound, sort of, is a popsicle stick harmonica. It is engineering. It's following directions. It's learning about science and vibration. It's perseverance. It's fine motor skills. So what you do here with this is you take two popsicle sticks, you put them together. You take a piece of paper, which kind of becomes the reed, so to speak, and you lay the strip of paper and two toothpicks to create space in between the harmonica, and then you fasten it on both ends with a rubber band. And then when you put your lips on the popsicle sticks, the paper vibrates, and just like a reed would and a clarinet, and you have created yourself a harmonica. And if you take a little piece of paper and you wrap it around here, around one of the top ones, you slide the piece of paper down the popsicle stick as you're blowing through it, it actually changes the pitch that is being produced. So the longer the piece of paper is, the lower it sounds. And then as you bring the piece of paper closer, it shortens the paper, and then it plays a higher sound. So the science tie-in is strong. And
I typed in the chat box down there the Pano Tuner app. That's not a typo. It is called Pano Tuner. And how we get our technology tie, in here is by measuring the pitch in terms of frequency and the actual number of hertz that the sounds appear at. So the piano tuner allows you to actually see the sound in terms of how many hertz. It shows you exactly what the frequency is, and it'll show them the difference visibly between a higher and lower pitch sound. It's a really cool app. It's actually meant for tuning pianos, but it works for all kinds of applications. We use it all the time.
So popsicle stick harmonica. It's a nice.
Not quiet though.
Not quiet. I will say it is not quiet. Be prepared.
Another really cool activity that we hang our hat on, and really from day one, this is one of the very first things that we did with Full Steam Ahead, because it was such an amazing music and science tie or technology tie, is using Makey to create music.
Has anyone heard of Makey? Or maybe if you have one?
I think, and Luli can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have a set of Makeys, because we've been advocating for them forever and ever and ever. One,
all right.
Which is good.
One is better than none.
Yeah. They are awesome. They're so much fun. Basically what they do, using Makey, you can connect anything that you want, or anything that conducts electricity that you want, to this Makey. And it will turn whatever you connect to it into a piano key or a key on your keyboard.
Not whatever you connect to it, only things that conduct electricity.
Yes, so exactly. So we connect all kinds of things. We've turned a cup of water. We use aluminum foil all the time. We've tested all kinds of different materials. We have the kids do conductivity tests versus insulator tests. But essentially, you can turn anything you want into a piano. This is a really fun way to get kids, playing music. Sometimes the traditional instruments aren't as exciting if they've done them lots of times, and it's something really neat about being able to touch a banana and have it play a piano chord or anything like that. Bananas are the classic example, but we've used hundreds of different objects.
You can also use people.
Yep.
You in the whole process, when you're using the Makey in a lesson, you want to explain circuitry. Like you want to explain the way electricity and energy flows through, and then talk about insulators, talked about conductors, do a scavenger hunt to see which items conduct electricity and which don't. You make it a whole thing. And then the way you kind of bring it back and you tie all the loose ends together for the kids is you connect it to something that does conduct electricity, and you make a piano. You go to makeymakey.com/piano, and it lets you connect to a computer, and then you can play your little banana piano. And the kids love it, and you've tied in all of your STEAM concepts. So the last thing, the last little idea that we wanted to share with you just real quick is it's simple.
A nice low-tech idea.
Music hopscotch. You can do it with the letters on the staff, like the musical pitches. You can do it with the rhythms. And then, it just works like hopscotch. You toss a rock, and then they jump onto it, and then they count out, if it's the duration one, the one on the left, they count out how many beats, how many notes each of them is worth, and then they go to the next. And you can do it in a competition, you can do it in games. I've also used masking tape and put 5 lines on the floor to represent the 5 lines on a musical staff, and then I tell them a letter to jump onto, so they jump onto the B line or the C space. And I set up two little game boards on the floor. And then 2 teams, I give them a letter that I call one out, and then the 2 teams jump onto the spot on the floor staff and see who can get there first. So, there's so many variations on how you can do it. But the point is, these are simple musical concepts that you can, with whatever level of experience you have, you can lay out for the kids in a really fun way that gets them moving and engaged and just doing music. And this one is pretty quiet, low tech, easy, free, maybe some painter's tape is all you need, and it's very effective.
We always like to give a low tech option. We know that not everybody is blessed with a 24 computer lab and 24 iPads and all the wonderful things.
Does anyone have any questions? These are hard times. Does anyone get that joke?
I get it. I do.
Those are time signatures, and they're very tricky time signatures to play in 3/8 isn't too bad, but 5/4 and 6/16. Come on now. Anyway, music.
Raise your hand if you think Hillary's a music nerd. Go ahead, you can do it. a very proud music nerd.
Anywho, thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time. We hope this has been helpful and informative, and hope that there's some stuff that you can take away and do in your library setting.
For a very informative and fun webinar. I'm glad I got to put some stuff in the chat box. That doesn't happen all the time during the webinar. So thanks for the shout outs to our Bits and Bytes to Borrow program and our Makey Makeys that are quite popular. Attendees, if you enjoyed this webinar and others, we encourage you to keep an eye on our Swiftland CE calendar, which the calendar for June will be going out on May 1st. Where is the year going? Also keep in touch with the Swiftland Facebook page or look for your friendly daily love letter from our distribution list. So thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you, Hillary and Ryan. And we look forward to many more wonderful interactions with everyone. And thanks to our sign language extraordinaire, Miss Deb McClain up there in the top of the screen. Great job. Thanks, everyone.